win battles. Instead, he focused on his own power, teaching himself to control it. During sparring, he deliberately matched his strength with his opponent's, winning or losing by the smallest margin possible. It was exhausting, but his control grew sharper every day. Kyle, however, was still caught up in comparisons. Man, I wish I were in your dorm. It wasn't. The entire top 10 students there. Very obviously ranked one. Now Stevie at 3. Ian at 5. Even Dan and Martha are winning these numbers without being right nuts. Watching across the room, he's currently top 50. Monk's face turned pink in sudden tension. It's a special treatment. Said softly. Gary snorted. Use this garbage. I've been touched once. I'm still living. That one sentence stumped Monk. He straightened up, eyes flashing with rare anger. It's how useless, Gary. Just because you can't handle it doesn't make it worthless. Ray blinked. He had never seen Monk react like this before. The quiet boy who usually kept to himself had changed over these 6 months. He had become more serious, more disciplined, almost like a completely different person. Kyle, sensing trouble, jumped up. He placed himself between Gary and Monk. Hey, I'll get a hold of you. We're all black sashes now, right? We're supposed to stick together. Gary reached for the black sash tied loosely around his neck. With a scoff, he yanked it off and tossed it to the floor. This is the strength. His jaw tightened. He demanded, voice low and heavy. Gary smirked. Make me. He stepped forward, pushing against Kyle's hand as if daring Monk to move closer. Kyle's face twisted with panic. He turned desperately to Ray. Ray, can you help me here? I don't think I can hold them apart much longer. Ray didn't move. He sat on his bed, eyes half-lit, uninterested. To him, this was their problem. Still, their shouting was beginning to irritate him. So to put a stop to this annoyance, he blurted out the first solution that crossed his mind. Why don't you just settle this in a ranking battle? Kyle's head snapped around, eyes wide in shock as if Ray had just proposed a crime. Ray, are you serious? That's the worst idea. But Gary's grin widened. Fine. Tomorrow after basic training, we will face each other, Monk. Let's see if those so-called Black Knight skills are really worth anything. Monk's fists tightened, but he nodded. Done. Without another word, both Gary and Monk stormed out toward their dorms, leaving a thick silence behind. Kyle whirled on Ray. Why would you say that? You don't even realize what you've just done, Ray. You all live in the same dorm. What happens when they keep butting heads inside your room? Ray stood and stretched lazily. If they keep fighting, we'll step in to deal with them both. Kyle barked a laugh, shaking his head. You? Come on, Ray. Don't kid yourself. Sure, we're both Black Knights, but we're not even close to them. I'm at rank 160, and you're even lower than me. How in the world are you supposed to stop Gary or Monk? Ray didn't bother replying. Words wouldn't change Kyle's mind. Instead, he walked off, heading toward the dorms. When Ray entered his room later, the tension hit him like a wall. Gary sat on one side, arms crossed and jaw clenched. Monk was on the opposite side, staring at the floor, silent but visibly fuming. Neither spoke a word. Slivia, sitting at her desk, looked up the moment Ray entered. What happened? They've been like this ever since they came back. They argued, Ray said simply. He didn't feel like going into details. It wasn't his story to tell. Before Slivia could ask more, the door banged open. Dan rushed in, eyes sparkling with excitement. Tell me it's true. Are Gary and Monk really going to fight tomorrow? The room went dead quiet. For a moment, no one answered. It wasn't common for a top-ranked student to challenge someone lower unless there was a serious grudge. The fact that Gary, number 1, had agreed to fight Monk, wasn't even close to his level, was shocking. Slivia leaned back, arms crossed. From the look of things, Dan, you've guessed right. Dan's grin widened. Unbelievable! This is going to be huge! It didn't take long. Within minutes, whispers spread like wildfire through the school. Everyone was suddenly talking about the match. Students in the hallways, the dining room, even during practice, they were buzzing with anticipation. A fight between two people everyone knew personally was rare. And to make things more interesting, this wasn't just a fight, it was Gary versus Monk. Ray could already guess who had spread the news so quickly: Kyle. That night, back in the dorm, the arguments resumed in smaller bursts. Gary sat polishing his blade, muttering under his breath about showing Monk his place. Monk, meanwhile, paced back and forth like a soldier preparing for battle. Slivia broke the silence. You two realize everyone's going to be watching tomorrow, right? Monk stopped pacing. Good. Let them see that the Black Knight's skills aren't worthless. Gary smirked without looking up. Or they'll see how pathetic you are. Slivia sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. Honestly, you're both acting like children. She glanced at Ray, hoping for him to step in. Ray, say something. Ray leaned back on his bed, hands behind his head. What's the point? They've already made up their minds. Words won't change anything now. Monk shot him a look. You're the one who suggested the ranking battle in the first place. Gary chuckled. Exactly. Guess Ray wanted some entertainment. Ray didn't answer. Instead, he closed his eyes. Tomorrow would sort everything out. But deep down, he knew one thing. If the fight got out of hand, he might be forced to step in after all. By the next morning, the buzz had reached fever pitch. Students gathered in groups, whispering excitedly. Gary versus Monk was on everyone's lips. Some placed quiet bets. Others debated who stood a chance. Kyle, running up to Ray, was practically bursting. Do you hear them? It's everywhere. Everyone's saying Gary will crush Monk in minutes. Some think Monk might surprise us. Ray gave him a sideways glance. And what do you think? Kyle hesitated. Honestly, I don't know. Monk's gotten stronger, but Gary is still Gary. Either way, this is going to be wild. Ray didn't reply. He simply walked ahead, keeping his thoughts to himself. The stage was set, and not long after, everything would be decided. Training felt empty that morning. Students went through the motions, but nobody's heart was in it. Everyone was thinking about one thing: the fight between Monk and Gary. This is insane. A simple ranking match has turned into a circus, Ray thought, watching his classmates whisper excitedly. Kyle had made it worse. He turned it into a big event, complete with betting and everything. Gary was everyone's favorite to win, but Kyle made sure there were good odds on Monk too. The teachers knew about the match, but had no idea about the gambling happening right under their noses. This wasn't just any ranking match. This was personal. Gary was the top student, and Monk was climbing fast through the ranks. Sure, Monk was officially ranked 50th, but everyone knew he was really top 10 material. The outdoor training area was packed. Students formed a huge circle around the two fighters, who stood 10 feet apart, staring each other down. Ray stood with his roommates, Ian, Sylvia, Dan, and Martha, while Kyle strutted over with his betting tray. So, anyone want to place a bet? Kyle grinned, showing off his list of names and the money hanging around his neck. How can you even ask that? Slivia crossed her arms. We're friends with both of them. We're roommates. What if they find out we were betting on them? Dan immediately pulled out a 10 Seppi note and dropped it on Kyle's tray.
There are police reported ahead.
Dan! Slivia yelled. Martha shrugged. Fight for Monk. I always root for the underdog. I can't believe you two. Right, Ian? Slivia turned to the big guy hopefully. Ian looked away, fidgeting with his hands. Don't tell me. The big guy already bet on Gary. Kyle laughed. Of course they did. Everyone thinks this is just entertainment. You Humans have always been sadists, seeking pleasure in others' sufferings, Ray thought bitterly. Kyle headed back into the crowd, shouting, "Betting's closed! Fight starts now!" Slivia sighed heavily. "Well, at least I know you didn't bet anything, Ray. I have to ask, do you think Monk has a chance?" "Oh, so..." She didn't answer, but the worry on her face said everything. Ray watched the two fighters. "Monk has worked harder than any of us in our special training. He beats us in almost everything. Gary might be naturally talented and can defeat nearly everyone, but Monk is the worst type of opponent for him right now." Dan overheard the conversation between Ray and Slivia. "Well, I fought Gary and lost him under a minute. Honestly, Monk doesn't stand a chance." Dan doesn't understand. This isn't about natural talent anymore. Monk has something Gary doesn't. Desperation, Ray thought. All eyes turned.
There were police reported ahead.
"Referee, you ready for this?" Gary asked casually, twirling his wooden sword. Monk's grip tightened on his weapon. "As ready as I can ever be." "Don't embarrass yourself," Gary smirked. "The only one getting embarrassed today is you," Monk shot back. Kyle raised his hand high. 3, 2, 1, fight! His hand dropped, and he quickly jumped back into the crowd. Monk exploded forward instantly. No hesitation, no testing, only pure aggression from the first second. He attacked Gary from every angle, left, right, above and below. His small frame became his weapon as he shifted stances rapidly, moving like lightning. "Incredible! Monk is not holding anything back." Ray was impressed. The crowd gasped at Monk's speed and intensity. But Gary was just as impressive, blocking nearly every strike that came his way. "Whoa! Did you see that combination?" Someone shouted. "Gary's defense is insane!" Another student yelled. "Phew! Monk had me worried there for a second," Dan admitted, watching Gary deflect another flurry of attacks. But Ray could see what others missed. "Monk's burning through his energy too fast. This pace isn't sustainable for him if he wishes to win this fight. He needs to understand that soon." After several minutes of relentless attacking, Monk was already breathing hard. Gary noticed too, and finally struck back with force. Monk immediately changed his style. Instead of attacking, he focused on dodging. His footwork became fluid and graceful, just like Sir Kay's during their night test. Every time Gary swung, Monk slipped away at the last possible second. "Go, Monk! Don't give up!" Martha cheered from beside Ray. "You're faster than I thought," Gary admitted, swinging and missing again. "I'm full of surprises," Monk breathed out. For 10 long minutes, they danced this deadly dance. Gary attacking, Monk evading. The crowd was mesmerized. "This could go on forever," Slivia said. "No," Ray said quietly. "It will end soon. Our techniques are designed for quick kills. Assassination, not drawn-out fights." Monk knew that, which is why he pushed so hard early. The moment this went past 10 minutes, Monk lost. Unless, there's still one way he could win, but Gary's been holding back this whole time. He's just playing with Monk, letting him tire himself out. Sweat poured down Monk's face while Gary looked barely winded. "Ready to give up?" Gary asked, not even breathing hard. Monk didn't answer. He steadied his breathing, preparing himself. Gary's patience finally ran out. "Fine, let's end this." He struck with his full strength for the first time. Monk raised his wooden sword to block, but Gary's power was too much. The training.
There's low visibility reported ahead.
Gary announced, standing over Monk. The crowd started to cheer, thinking the match was finished. But then, something changed. Monk grabbed one of the sharp wooden shards from his broken sword, gripping it like a dagger. "Monk, don't!" someone shouted. With his last burst of strength, Monk lunged at Gary's neck with the makeshift weapon. The splintered wood was sharp now, deadly. No longer a training tool, but a real weapon. Gary's eyes widened in shock. The sharp point came closer to his throat. It was about to make contact with his skin when something unexpected happened. Gary held his breath, his body rigid, waiting for the pain, but it never came. He dared to shift his gaze, keeping his head still to see the sharp point just an inch away from his throat. Then he noticed a hand holding the wooden shard with force. "That's enough," Ray said firmly. The crowd fell silent. Everyone stared at the three of them. Monk with his improvised weapon, Gary frozen in shock, Ray holding them apart. "The match is over," Ray announced. Monk's hand trembled as reality hit him. The wooden shard fell to the ground. Gary stepped back, his face pale. "Monk, what were you thinking?" Monk looked at his hands, then at Gary, then at Ray. I'm sorry. To both of you." Without another word, Monk stepped back before he hurried away, cutting through the crowd. Slivia called after him in worry, but to no avail. Ray watched Monk's retreating figure with furrowed brows, his lips thin into a line. "This is just a display of who we are becoming. Monk just showed everyone what we are really training for. To kill."
This is going to be the hardest golf challenge in the world. We are in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, and we created a golf course with holes that extend over 1,300 yards long. This is the Great American Golf Adventure. We brought some of the longest hitters and best short game players here to take on this adventure. It's Team me, Bubby, and Alexis versus Team Garrett, Mo, and Marissa. The only reason this adventure is possible is because we're driving the GMC Sierra EV-AT4, the ultimate adventure utility truck. They've powered this whole experience. From camping last night to being with tee box on every shot, this is one of the craziest videos we have ever made.
Guys, welcome back to another good video. Today we have a very special one for you all at home. This has never been done before, the world's hardest golf challenge probably ever. I mean, we're here in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. Shout out to GMC for making this happen. This right here is the Great American Golf Adventure. What we are doing today, we are playing 5 holes with holes longer than 1,300 yards. Here's the scorecard, 1,600 yards. So hole 1, 1,300 yards, 2, 16, 1,300, 1,000, and then 8.
Gary just stood there, still trying to process how close he'd come to serious injury, or worse. The spectators started talking among themselves, their voices growing louder. "Well, who actually won the fight?" "I'm not sure. That red-haired guy stopped it right when Gary was about to win." "What are you talking about? Monk was clearly going to win with that final attack." Arguments broke out all around the ring. Some students insisted Gary had already won when he broke Monk's sword. Others claimed Monk's desperate final move would have secured his victory. But gradually, their anger began focusing on one person, the one who had stopped the fight. "Why did that red-haired guy have to interfere?" someone shouted. "Maybe he bet money and didn't want to lose it," another voice called out. Kyle noticed the crowd's mood shifting, quickly stepped onto the field, holding up his hands. "Hey, guys, sorry to say this, but because a third party got involved, the match has been voided from the official rankings," Kyle announced loudly. "Don't worry, though, you'll all get your money back." Whether Kyle meant to or not, his words made things worse. Now, it really looked like Ray had interfered just to save his own money. Suddenly, a bottle came flying from somewhere in the crowd. Ray tilted his head slightly, letting it sail past his ear. But once the first person threw something, others joined in. Soon, rocks, pieces of wood, even shoes. Ray couldn't dodge everything. Instead, he just walked toward the exit, letting most of the items hit him. But he made sure to look at every single person who threw something. His yellow eyes tracked each face, memorizing them. I'll remember all of you, Ray thought coldly. Meanwhile, Slivia had been watching everything unfold from the sidelines. When she saw Monk grab those sharp wooden pieces, her heart nearly stopped. Gary was in real danger, and she could see he wasn't ready for it. She was about to scream for someone to stop the fight when Ray appeared out of nowhere, his bare hand catching Monk's weapon just inches from Gary's throat.
That's impossible. Ray was standing right next to me a second ago. How did he move so fast? Did you see when Ray got over there?
She asked Dan.
No, I was watching Monk and Gary too closely.
Dan replied, scratching his head.
He must have been moving closer to them during the fight. Yeah, that makes sense.
Martha agreed.
He probably saw what was coming and got ready to step in.
Most of the students convinced themselves of similar explanations. Nobody wanted to believe that Ray had moved with impossible speed. It was easier to think he'd been slowly getting closer throughout the fight. But Slivia knew better. She'd been standing right next to Ray the entire time. He hadn't moved until that final moment. Now she could see the crowd turning ugly. They didn't understand that Monk's last attack could have killed Gary. Most of them thought it was still just a training match, not realizing how dangerous those wooden shards really were.
There's low visibility reported ahead.
We need to do something before this becomes a riot. This is your fault. If you hadn't turned this into some stupid betting game, I know.
Kyle said nervously, looking at the angry faces around them.
I'll fix it.
Kyle could feel the crowd's anger starting to include him, too. He knew they might turn on him next if he wasn't careful. That's when he made his announcement about voiding the match and returning everyone's money. As soon as the words left his mouth, Kyle melted back into the crowd, letting Ray take all the blame.
Coward!
Slivia seethed. The first bottle flew at Ray before anyone could stop it. Then came everything else, a rain of objects from dozens of angry students.
Stop it!
Slivia yelled, but nobody listened. She, Ian, Dan, and Martha rushed forward, trying to form a protected circle around Ray. They used their bodies to block what they could, taking hits themselves as objects bounced off them.
There's low visibility reported ahead.
He saved Gary's life.
But the crowd was too angry to listen to reason. They kept throwing things, their voices growing louder and more hostile. When Slivia turned to check on Ray, she felt ice in her veins. His eyes were glowing bright yellow as he walked calmly toward the exit. His hands were clenched into tight fists at his sides. The objects hitting him didn't seem to bother him at all. But there was something terrifying in his expression, cold and calculating. Ray hadn't even noticed his friends trying to protect him. His attention was completely focused on memorizing faces. Every person who threw something, every person who yelled insults, every person who joined the mob. You all made a mistake today, a very big mistake, and one day I will make you all pay for it. His dragon eyes caught every detail. Faces, voices, even the specific objects each person had thrown. He filed it all away in his memory, knowing he'd need it later. As Ray disappeared from view, the crowd finally began to calm down. But the damage was done. Lines had been drawn, sides had been chosen, and Ray now had a very long list of people who owed him payback.
Ray, wait!
Slivia called out, but he was already gone. She looked at Ian, Dan, and Martha, all of them bruised from the objects they'd blocked. None of them spoke, but they were all thinking the same thing. Something had changed today, something that couldn't be undone, and they had a feeling things were about to get much worse. Training had become a nightmare. The Black Squire sessions were filled with cold silence instead of friendly joke. Kyle avoided Ray like he carried some deadly disease. On the other hand, Monk and Gary were a different story. They hadn't spoken to each other since their fight. Not even a single word. But something good came from all the tension. Everyone was working harder than ever before. No more casual chatting after special training. No more hanging around to talk with friends. And silent and went straight back to their rooms afterward. Although Gary kept his top ranking, he now fought differently. After seeing what the Black Knight training could do with his fight with Monk, he put everything he had into their sessions. He even used those techniques in his ranking matches, finishing opponents with just a few moves, instead of playing around like before. As for Ray himself, that day had taught him an important lesson. He'd been living among humans for too long, letting his heart grow soft. For some time, he allowed their emotions and kindness to dim the fire of vengeance burning inside his heart. But the way the crowd had turned on him so quickly reminded him what humans were really like: selfish, quick to blame others, easily manipulated. I can't forget my real purpose here, Ray told himself. That evening, after their basic and special training ended that day, Wilfred appeared to greet the four black squires inside the mansion. Good to all see you again, Wilfred said, but his usual smile was missing. He looked a bit troubled. Unfortunately, I don't have time for small talk today. I'm here because the Grand Elders sent me. Kyle, Ray, I need you both to come with me. Gary stepped forward. Don't you need us too? I'm afraid this only concerns them right now. This is about something specific, Ray realized, following Wilfred through the academy grounds. They walked all the way to the central tower, the tallest building on campus. Wilfred led them up countless stairs until they reached one of the highest rooms. Ray had never been this far up before. The chamber took his breath away. Paintings of legendary dragon knights covered every wall. Ancient weapons and armor were displayed in glass cases. At the center of the room sat a huge meeting table that looked like it belonged in a king's palace. 4 people stood at the far end of the table, all master knights. Ray recognized Delbert, Bernardo, Sir Kay, and Miss Rose, the head of the Green Knights. Their faces were serious, almost grim. Please, take a seat. Wilfred gestured to 2 chairs. Ray sat next to Kyle, trying to read the situation. This felt important, maybe even dangerous. A few moments later, the door opened again. 3 more students walked in. Ray recognized Ian immediately, but the other 2 were identical twins he'd never seen before. They looked exactly alike, impossible to tell apart. As Ray looked around the room, he noticed something that made his stomach drop. Everyone here had red hair. All of them. This isn't a coincidence, Ray thought, his muscles tensing. Wilfred took his place at the head of the table. His expression was deadly serious.
In 2 miles, take exit 82 for Mellon Street toward Washington 507 North.
I won't waste time with details, Wilfred began, his voice echoing in the large room. The 5 of you are here because of a prophecy made 15 years ago. The divine being told us that our land would be saved by a child with red hair. The other students gasped and looked at each other in shock. Ray kept his face calm, but inside he was analyzing everything. He'd heard whispers of this before, but never the details. Not everyone talked about it during the evening walks. But what troubled him was the fact that unlike the other 4 red-haired students, his natural hair color was black. Even now, some black strands were still visible if you looked closely. There is no way this prophecy has anything to do with me. Besides, I am here to attain a completely different goal. I'm not interested in saving this land at all. In search of the prophesied child, Wilfred continued, we sent knights across the entire land. They found 10 children, all the same age. Ray frowned. 10 children? But there are only 5 of us here. Wilfred noticed their confusion. The 5 of you have no magical abilities. The other 5 do, and they're currently at Roland.
In half a mile, take exit 82 for Mellon Street toward Washington 507 North.
Save the world? Ray caught something the others missed. Delbert and Miss Rose exchanged quick glances, and their expressions darkened for just a moment. There was anger there, maybe even
Take
fear.
exit 82.
Isn't telling us everything. Ray realized there's more to this prophecy. Behind Wilfred, the air began to shimmer. A magical illusion formed, showing 5 legendary warriors in magnificent armor, the original Dragon Knights. This is why I called you here today, Wilfred announced. We want to recreate the legacy of our founders. Just as the Dragon Knight saved our land from the Shadow Plague long ago, now this task falls to you. Kyle shot out of his chair, unable to contain his excitement. You mean we're going to be... That's correct, Wilfred confirmed. You 5 will become the new Dragon Knights of Avrian Academy. However, this means your training will become much harder. On top of your basic and special sessions, you'll have additional Dragon Knight training. The other students were thrilled. Ian grinned widely, and the twins whispered excitedly to each other. Kyle looked like he might faint from happiness. Ray played along, nodding and looking impressed, but inside he was calculating. Wait, if that's the case, I think this whole plot can be of some use to me. Playing along gives me access to Dragon Knight secrets, their techniques, their history, their weaknesses.
In a quarter mile, take the Mellon Street ramp to Washington 507 North.
Perfect. Wilfred spent the next several minutes explaining their new training schedule, when they'd meet, where they'd train, what they'd learn. The others hung on every word like their lives.
Take the Mellon Street ramp.
As they all prepared to leave the room, Wilfred's voice stopped Ray cold. Ray, wait here. Everyone else filed out, leaving Ray alone with Wilfred. The Master Knight stepped closer.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto Mellon Street.
See you, Wilfred said quietly. Ray's breath hitched. Nobody had come to visit him in the past 8 years since he left home. He had no relatives or friends other than Gary. So, who could it be, making efforts to come all the way to Avrian Academy to meet him?
At the light, turn right onto Mellon Street.
Stepped out from behind one of the large pillars in the room. Ray's heart nearly stopped. Mother? Scarlet looked exactly as
Continue for half a mile.
holy and pure, with kind eyes and gentle hands. The first person to ever hold him. The woman who had raised him before everything went wrong. But tears were streaming down her face. Not tears of joy at seeing her son. These were tears of pure anguish. Mother? Ray whispered, his voice barely audible. What's wrong? How did you find me here? She slowly lifted her head, and Ray saw something in her eyes that terrified him. It was the look of someone who had lost everything. When she spoke, her voice was broken, barely above a whisper. It's your father, Ray.
In 1,000 feet, turn left onto South Schreiber Road.
Ray's mother sat in the chair, her whole body shaking like a leaf in the wind. Wilfred took one look at her tear-stained face and practically ran out of the room, leaving Ray alone with the woman who had raised him. She's falling apart. This isn't like her at all. Why does it pain my heart to see the woman who once was full of life and fire become a helpless and dejected mess? Scarlet Talon had always been the strongest person he knew. She never backed down from a fight.
In 300 feet, turn left toward Cooks Hill Road.
Even when the worst things happened, she would stand tall and face them head on. But now, she looked completely broken. When her tears finally stopped, Ray forced himself to ask the question that was burning in his chest. What happened to Dad? What's wrong with him? His mother took a shaky breath, like she was preparing to deliver the worst news in the world. Your father, he's gone, Ray. Ray felt his stomach drop to the floor. Gone? His voice came out as a whisper. Do you mean, is he dead? Part of him had been expecting this. The shadow plague never let anyone live for long. Most infected people had maybe a year before the madness took over completely. His father had already survived much longer than anyone thought possible. But his mother shook her head, fresh tears rolling down her cheeks. No, he was taken. The shadow plague took him over completely. Ray's eyes went wide. This was so much worse than death. When someone got infected by the shadow plague, two things could happen. The first, and most common, was that they'd go insane and die within a year. Painful, but at least it ended. The second option was a nightmare. Sometimes, very rarely, the plague would take complete control of the person's body. They'd become something inhuman, a monster wearing the face of someone you love. Ray had seen it happen before. The Drop Bear King in the Black Forest had been one of those poor souls. But his father had shown no signs of transformation. They'd all thought he was just fighting off the infection like a champion. How could we have been so wrong? His mother's voice cracked as she continued. Your father fought it for so long, Ray. Every single day he battled against that thing inside him. And then, one morning, he gained control for just a few minutes, just long enough to warn me. Ray leaned forward, hanging on every word. He told me to evacuate the village because he couldn't hold the plague back anymore. I did what he asked, but I couldn't leave him alone. I stayed by his side until the very end. Ray's heart nearly stopped. Are you hurt? He grabbed her arms, checking for wounds, for any sign that the plague had infected her too. Did he attack you? Did you get scratched or bitten? She shook her head. No, I'm fine. When he transformed, I tried everything I could think of to help him, but there was nothing I could do without hurting him. Her voice broke completely. He begged me to kill him, Ray. He said it would be the kindest thing, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't kill your father. I couldn't kill the man I love, Ray. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed like her heart was being ripped in half. Ray sat there, his hands slowly clenching into fists. A burning rage was building in his chest, hotter than any fire he'd ever felt. He was angry at the shadow plague for stealing his father. He was angry at the humans for doing nothing to stop it. But most of all, he was furious with himself. 15 years. 15 years I've been trying to unlock my dragon powers. I always thought I had more time. I thought one day, when my dragon abilities finally returned, I could heal him. But I was an ignorant fool, Ray thought bitterly. But while he'd been playing student at this academy, his mother had been facing this nightmare alone. His father had been fighting a losing battle against a plague that was slowly eating him alive. And Ray had done absolutely nothing to help. They talked for what felt like hours. His mother told him about the village, how empty it was now, how the other families had fled when they learned about the infection. She talked about the long nights she'd spent watching over his father, hoping for a miracle that never came. When she finally got up to leave, Ray asked what she planned to do next. I'll work at an adventurers guild, she said, trying to sound strong again. Help other people who are dealing with situations like ours. But don't worry, I'll stay away from the dangerous jobs. Before she walked out the door, she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper.
Washington Orthopedic Center may close within 1 hour of when you arrive. Head south toward South Scheuber Road. Take the next right onto South Scheuber Road, then turn right.
Oh no, they're right across the street.
Take the second right, then your destination will be on the right. Head west toward Cooks Hill Road.
Just getting started.
Take the next right onto South Scheuber Road, then turn right onto Cooks Hill Road. At the stop sign, turn right onto Cooks Hill Road. Continue for half a mile. In 1,000 feet, use the left lane to continue on Airport Road. Use the left lane to continue on Airport Road, then slight left. Take the next left toward Ellsbury Street.
Attempt. Every time Sebastian tried to speak, Ray hit him. Like he could read minds. Like he knew exactly when to silence him. The crowd's energy shifted. This wasn't a fight anymore. This was something else entirely. Something dark. Students stared in horrified silence. The excitement of the match had died, replaced by a creeping fear. Ray is a monster, they thought. A monster wearing human skin. On the other hand, Ray's mind was somewhere else entirely. Each strike he aimed at Sebastian brought flashes of memory. His father, slowly being consumed by the shadow plague. His mother, crying as she told him what happened. The crowd throwing trash at him after he'd saved Gary's life. Eric insulting his parents. Sebastian's smug face as he bragged about destroying Monk. But that's not all. The snippets of memories from his past life began to cloud his judgment. The screams, the loss, the fear, the violence, and the struggle to survive. Everything rushed forward with great force. Every injustice, Every cruelty, every moment of pain. More. Something dark whispered in his mind. Make him suffer more. Sebastian's bloody face looked up at him with terror, but Ray felt nothing. No sympathy, no hesitation, no mercy. This is justice. This is what they all deserve. The humans deserve. His grip tightened on the sword. He raised it again. That's enough, Ray. The voice cut through the fog of rage like a knife. Ray recognized that voice instantly. Please, stop. Monk stood at the edge of the training ground, tears streaming down his bruised and swollen face. His body was still covered in bandages, and he could barely stand. Ray froze. The sword he raised remained stationary in the air over his head. Why was Monk crying? Wasn't this what he wanted? Wasn't this revenge for what Sebastian had done to him?
Well, get over,
Here's what
dude.
happens to this waste of space, the dark voice insisted. But Ray's hands were trembling now. Monk's tears didn't make sense. This was supposed to be justice. This was supposed to make things right. In that moment of hesitation, Sebastian gasped out the words through his ruined mouth. I give up. Please. No more. No more. The match ended. Ray's communicator blinked, updating his rank to number 2. Sebastian couldn't stand it anymore. Blood covered every part of his body. His face was unrecognizable, lips split open, one ear torn, his once white sash now completely soaked red. The fight was over. Ray's darkened gaze pierced through Sebastian's beaten form. He didn't stay to see the aftermath. Using his Black Knight skills, Ray slipped into the crowd and disappeared before anyone could follow him. His roommates stood frozen in shock. Even Slivia and Ian, who'd always believed Ray was strong, hadn't expected this. He'd fought like he was on a completely different level, like a master knight toying with a child. The Black Knight's skills are seriously overpowered, Dan muttered. How is anyone supposed to defend against an attack like that? Monk kept replaying the phantom strike Ray had just performed in his mind, analyzing every movement. No, Monk said quietly. None of us can do what he just did. Not yet. Kyle crossed his arms. Has he been hiding his real strength from us this whole time? Dan's face suddenly lit up with excitement. Wait! Does this mean Ray and Gary are going to fight for the #1 spot? Several students nearby heard Dan's comment and moved closer, eager to hear more. Gary sighed and waved them off. Ray has already beaten me before. There's no need for a second fight. I know I don't stand a chance against him. The crowd went silent. When had they fought? It must have been before the ranking matches even started. Gary's statement wasn't just admitting defeat. It was a confirmation of something bigger. Everyone had just watched Ray destroy Sebastian with ease. While nobody would say Gary was weaker than Sebastian, there was no way Gary could have dominated him like Ray just had. Word spread through the academy like wildfire. Meanwhile, in one of the top floors of the central building, the Master Knights had gathered for an emergency meeting. Delbert slammed his fist on the table so hard it shook. He should be executed, he shouted, his face red with rage. The room cracked with heavy tension, but Sir Kay's calm but firm voice sliced through it like a sharp knife. You're letting family loyalty cloud your judgment, Delbert. Think like a knight, not a father. The boy broke no academy rules. Delbert's eyes blazed with fury. Did you see what he did to my son? Sebastian's face will be scarred for weeks. No normal child could torture someone like that. He's as evil as Set himself. Miss Rose nodded slowly. I agree with Delbert. This boy could become the destroyer of the kingdom. just as the prophecy warned. Bernardo leaned back in his chair, looking thoughtful. Let me remind everyone, he said carefully. The same prophecy states that a red-haired boy will be our savior, and Ray Taylor fits that description perfectly. Trying to kill or expel him might doom us all. But Wilfred sighed heavily, cutting Delbert mid-sentence. Enough of the argument. There is only one way to resolve this matter. We'll put it to a vote. Those in favor of expelling the boy, raise your hand. Delbert and Rose raised their hands immediately, but Bernardo and Sir Kay kept theirs down. Wilfred looked around the table. Then I have the deciding vote. His gaze settled on Delbert. After an anticipatory moment, Wilfred finally revealed his verdict. The boy stays at Afrian Academy. There will be no punishment for Ray Taylor. Delbert's fists clenched, and he slammed the table again, but he said nothing more. Even he couldn't overturn the Academy's rules, no matter how much he wanted to. He stormed out of the chamber without another glance at others, but as he left, a cold smile briefly crossed his face. There were always alternatives. That night, Ray was exhausted. The moment he returned to his room, Ian and Dan bombarded him with questions. Have you always been this strong? How did you do that phantom strike thing? Ray shrugged off their curiosity with a dry reply. I don't like being in the spotlight. I prefer staying low. When people notice you, they start bothering you. And that's the last thing on my bucket list. As for the phantom strike, that was a Black Sash secret. He couldn't explain it even if he wanted to. Later, Monk approached him quietly. Thanks, he said simply before retiring to his bed. Ray stared at him, confused. Thanks for what? For getting revenge, or for stopping when Monk asked him to? He didn't know, and that uncertainty bothered him. Ray lay on his bed and closed his eyes with hope of sleep granting him some relief tonight. Unfortunately, it did not happen. His mind kept mulling over his fight with Sebastian. He glanced around to see his roommates fast asleep after an eventful day. Getting out of bed, Ray climbed to the roof, a special place to think, to be alone with his thoughts. The cool night air greeted him as soon as he stepped outside. Ray found his usual spot and sat there, gazing out at the dark sky studded with twinkling stars and the crescent-shaped moon. After a few minutes, his shoulders relaxed a bit, and his mind felt lighter than before. Then, he heard the door creak open behind him. Turning, he was surprised to see Slivia standing there, the moonlight catching her silver hair. I thought I'd find you up here, she said softly. Ray turned back to face the sky. I think better up here. Slivia walked over and leaned on the ledge beside him. The wind played with her hair, making it shimmer like liquid silver under the moon. Ray had never found humans beautiful before. They were just humans. But in this moment, looking at her, something felt different. You're thinking about Monk, aren't you? She asked. About why he asked you to stop? Ray frowned, pushing the thought about Slivia's beauty aside as fast as it arrived. How did you know? Slivia smiled sadly. Ray, you're strange. You've never been good with people. It's like you don't understand emotions at all. Ray looked away, uncomfortable. He was indeed not good with people, emotions, or being vocal about it. You don't understand why people feel sad or happy, she continued gently. When I look at you, I see someone who's angry and confused all the time. She turned to face him directly. When I see you like that, I just want to help you. Ray met her eyes. Her dewy orbs tried to reach the deepest part of him, but Ray knew better than letting them succeed. Yet, a question he never thought he would ask someone slipped before he could stop it. Are you scared of me, Slivia? She hesitated, and for a moment, Ray expected her to lie. Sometimes, she admitted quietly, but I don't think you're a bad person, Ray. I think you're just lost. Ray activated his dragon eyes without thinking about it. He needed to see if she was telling the truth. Slivia gasped and stepped back. Ray, your eyes! At night, his dragon eyes couldn't stay hidden. They glowed bright yellow, cutting through the darkness like twin flames. Ray had expected this reaction. Humans always feared anything different from themselves. This was the moment she would run away, just like anyone else would have. But then, Slivia did something he never expected. She stepped forward, closer than before, and looked directly into his glowing eyes without flinching. They're beautiful, Ray, she whispered. They suit you. Ray felt something crack inside his chest, a wall he didn't even know was there. Nobody had ever called any part of him beautiful except his parents, Jack and Scarlet, especially not the parts that made him different. Slivia turned toward the exit, but paused at the door. She looked back at him one last time, her expression gentle and kind. You're not a monster, Ray. I hope you figure that out someday. Then she was gone, the door closing softly behind her. Ray now stood alone on the roof, staring at the spot where Slivia had been standing. His hand moved to his chest, pressing against where that strange feeling had bloomed. Humans were so difficult to understand. Just when he thought he'd figured them out, they surprised him completely. Gary had saved him when they were children. Monk saw him as family, and Slivia, she'd looked into his dragon eyes and called them beautiful. Maybe he'd been wrong about humans. Maybe some of them were different. Or... The door suddenly burst open with a loud crash. Ray spun around, expecting Slivia to have returned, but the person who stepped onto the roof was someone he'd never seen before. A tall man with silver hair and cold, calculating eyes walked toward him. He moved with the confidence of a trained fighter, each step measured and precise. His expensive clothes marked him as nobility, and there was something dangerous in the way he smiled. You are Ray, correct? The man said. His voice was ice. Ray's body tensed automatically, every instinct screaming danger. Who are you? The man's smile widened, but it never reached his eyes. My name doesn't matter. I'm here to teach you a lesson about crossing your line. He is gone. Ray stared at the man standing before him. He was certain they'd never met, yet something about him felt strangely familiar. The man gave a slight, mocking bow. Seems like you are adamant that I introduce myself first. All right, then. My name is Harry Delbert, first and eldest son of the Delbert family. The person you defeated today, Sebastian, was my younger brother. Now that he mentioned it, the resemblance was obvious. The silver hair, the sharp features, the way he carried himself. He was definitely related to Sebastian and Master Knight Delbert. So you're here for revenge? Ray asked, his body already tensing for a fight. Harry laughed, a cold, amused sound. Revenge? No, nothing as petty as that. In fact, I should probably thank you. My little brother was arrogant. He never took his training seriously because he was always at the top of his class. Someone needed to humble him eventually. Then why are you here? Ray demanded. Harry's words were calm and polite, but the pressure radiating from him told a completely different story. The air around him felt heavy, dangerous. Without answering, Harry drew his training sword with a smooth, practiced motion. Ray immediately drew his own weapon. As I said, Harry continued, his smile never reaching his eyes, I'm here to teach you a lesson. This year's first years are the weakest batch we've ever had at Avrian. I can't let you get ahead of yourselves, now can I? At the same time, I might as well defend my family's honor. Ray's eyes caught something on Harry's blue sash, a single gold ribbon. Second year. At Avrian Academy, ranking matches were separated by year. First years couldn't challenge upperclassmen through the official system, which meant if they fought now, this wouldn't be a sanctioned match. If I get hurt, there's no protection, no safety measures, no automatic stop. Ray's fingers tightened around the sword. Harry gestured casually with his sword. Come on, show me what you've got. Ray normally preferred to wait and counter, but he wanted to end this quickly, before anyone discovered them, before this could get worse. He charged forward, putting everything into his first attack. Swinging from above, he brought his sword down with all his strength, the same devastating blow that had broken through countless defenses. Harry raised his sword to block, looking almost bored. This should break right through. The force behind this strike is massive, Ray thought confidently. Their swords collided and stopped dead in midair. Ray's eyes went wide. His attack, which should have shattered Harry's weapon, had been completely neutralized. Worse, he could feel his own sword beginning to crack from the impact. What is this? What kind of power does this man hold?
Man.
Ray immediately
Drive.
jumped back, creating distance between them.
Get your shit going.
Harry tilted his head curiously. Oh, I'm surprised you made the right decision. I'm guessing this is your first time fighting someone who uses ki? Ki. That word explained the strange force Ray had felt in Harry's blade. It was something the Academy hadn't taught first years yet, an advanced technique for second years and above. In that case, my raw power won't work. Harry will always have a counter to my every attempt. I need to rely on my skills instead. Ray switched to black sash footwork, moving in an unpredictable zigzag pattern toward his opponent. The technique was designed to be unreadable, making it nearly impossible for enemies to predict where the next attack would come from. Ray struck from the left, but got blocked instantly. He spun and attacked from the right, yet was blocked again. From above, blocked. From behind, blocked. From below, blocked. Damn it, it's not working. This man has an answer to my every attack. Harry wasn't even following Ray's movements with his eyes. It was as if he could sense exactly where and when each attack would land. Ray stopped, breathing hard. This wasn't working at all. Is that everything you've got? Harry asked, sounding almost disappointed. Ray clenched his fists. He hadn't felt this helpless in a long time, not since training with his father years ago. As much as he hated to admit it, Harry was completely out of his league. Even if Ray transformed into his beast form, he doubted it would make much difference against this level of skill. There was one last technique he could try. Ray loosened his grip on the sword hilt and leaped forward again. This time, he swung upward from below, the same setup he'd used against Sebastian. Harry raised his sword to block, just as Ray expected. At the last possible moment, Ray's blade seemed to vanish, phasing through Harry's weapon like it wasn't even there. It reappeared behind the block, aimed directly at Harry's throat. Phantom strike. Just as the blade was about to cut his throat, Harry suddenly moved backward, dodging the strike by less than an inch. Ray's heart sank. Even his best technique hadn't been enough. A single drop of sweat rolled down Harry's forehead. Phew, that was close, Harry said, exhaling slowly. You actually made me move. The words hit Ray like a hammer. That's when he fully understood the gap between them. Throughout this entire fight, Ray had been attacking constantly, using every technique he knew. And until that very last moment, Harry hadn't moved his feet even once. Not once. He'd defended against everything while standing perfectly still. I'm guessing that was everything you had? Harry said, shifting his grip on his sword. He raised it above his right shoulder, holding it like a spear. Then, without any warning, he threw it. The sword shot through the air like a bolt of lightning. Ray's instincts screamed danger. He tried to dodge, but the blade was too fast. He barely managed to raise his own sword to block. The force behind Harry's throw was incredible. Ray's wooden sword shattered into pieces, and the momentum drove Harry's blade straight into Ray's stomach. Pain exploded through his body. Blood dripped from Ray's lips. He wanted to move, wanted to fight back, but his body wouldn't respond. His legs trembled, then gave out completely. Ray collapsed to the ground. Harry walked over calmly, picked up his sword from where it had fallen, and turned to leave. "Wait!" Ray shouted, struggling to speak through the pain. Harry stopped, but didn't turn around. "Just tell me one thing," Ray gasped. "You're ranked 1 among the second years, right?" There was a long pause. Then Harry raised his arm and activated his communicator. The screen glowed in the darkness, displaying a single number, 50.